the representative of France. I now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank Special Envoy of the UN Secretary-General, Michel Cafando, for his briefing on the development of the situation in the country. We were interested and grateful to hear the report following the visit to Bujumbura and countries of the region by the chair of the country-specific configuration of the Peace-Building Commission, the permanent representative of Switzerland, Jörg Lauber. We note the country-specific configuration's balanced stance, thanks to which it has been able to remain one of the valuable channels for contact with Bujumbura. We support the PBC's initiative to revitalize interaction with Burundians with a focus on matters of the socio-economic development of the country and restoring donor confidence. We believe that in the developments of the internal political processes in Burundi, there is a prevailing trend towards stabilization. Concerning the political situation in this country, we would like to recall that on the 17th of May of this year, a constitutional referendum was organized perfectly calmly. A response to the criticism of this activity by opposition and a number of Western states was the stunning turnout for the vote, 96.24%, which has never before been seen in African countries, and also support for amending the constitution by an overwhelming majority of those voting, 73.26%. We also note that this was preceded by a democratic and transparent campaign. Mr. President, the Russian Federation considers that the matter of the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections is an internal affair of that country. We call upon the authorities and the opposition to refrain from exchanging negative rhetoric and focus on preparing for the election cycle, all the more so since President Nkurunziza has declared that he will not participate in the presidential race. Concerning the problems of making headway on the inter-Burundian dialogue, we would like to note that laying responsibility for that only on one side is counterproductive and even dangerous. The UN Secretariat and a number of Western colleagues should not protect the hardline opposition, but rather call upon all Burundian sides to rapidly resume a fully fledged negotiating process, which would be able to lead to sustainable peace and stability in Burundi. In the light of the intention of the former president of Tanzania, Benjamin Mkapa, to consider changing his role in the mediation process, we would like to note that this does not alter our commitment to the principle of African solutions to African problems. We call upon the African community to undertake and continue active mediation efforts to facilitate the constructive negotiations between the parties. Mr. President, evidence of the steady improvement of the situation in the country is the process of the return of refugees to Burundi from neighboring countries, which is now underway. At the same time, the humanitarian situation in Burundi remains difficult. We regret the fact that the humanitarian appeal to support the country's population has not been fully financed. We call upon donor countries to move away from double standards. We work consistently on the basis of the principles of humanism, neutrality, and impartiality in the provision of humanitarian assistance by the UN with the consent of the host country. We have taken note of the information in the Secretary-General's report about alleged mass human rights violations in Burundi. At the same time, we note that the information in the September report of OHCHR, from where they have also borrowed, is far from unambiguous, and so any conclusions cannot be drawn on the basis of that information. Suffice it to recall that the basis for the OHCHR report is data that comes only from representatives of the radical opposition, which for many years has been an unrelenting critic of the Burundian authorities and is also active outside the country. This can hardly be considered an impartial source of data. In any case, as is known, in accordance with the division of competencies within the UN, human rights issues are dealt with by the Human Rights Council, where Burundi is already being discussed. We recall that full responsibility for ensuring the upholding of human rights on the territory of Burundi, including by the armed and non-state structures, lies with the authorities of that country. On the basis of that understanding, that should be the basis for the Council's work. As a matter of principle, we advocate for respecting the sovereignty of Burundi and categorically reject interference in the internal affairs of Bujumbura. Mr. President, on the whole, we would like to underscore that the information that we have heard today does not demonstrate the presence of problems in the situation of Burundi which would merit keeping the subject of Burundi on the agenda of our work. Once again, we propose that colleagues on the Security Council focus on more serious matters. In any case, the need for quarterly discussions of the situation in that country is something we certainly do not see. And in general, we believe that the continued focus of the Security Council on Burundi is becoming counterproductive and is essentially only a convenient excuse for the unreconcilable opposition to complicate political processes in that country. Thank you.
I thank the representative